It is 7 o'clock. I am going to call the Ripon Area Fire District Board meeting, special meeting to order. Roll call, Sorensen,
Here.
Iverson,
Here.
Krieger,
Here.
Dankert,
Here.
Page,
Here.
Vandenbrink,
Here.
Gotsky, here. I'll take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign? Alright, I will open it for public comment. Generally don't have a lot, so I don't have to put a time limit on, but Barry?
Thank you. This comment is on behalf of the town of Ripon and the town of Newpasket. Our feelings is we are being coerced by the city administrator Adam Sante, the mayor Ted Grant, and the city of Ripon Common Council to amend the fire district bylaws. So the city will make their part of the payment of the new engine. That's my comment.
Do you have a public question?
And I'd like to have that put in the minutes, word for word, please.
Do you mind handing it to us maybe so we get it word for word after the meeting?
Sure.
Is that right?
Yep,
Is that the question?
that was my comment.
You said you had a question?
I do.
too. Okay.
My question is, when this truck started out, the cost of this truck was $885,000. And then we added on $14,000 worth of extras, which brought this to $899,000. And somewhere along the line, in all these reports and stuff, it got put up to $998,000. I guess my question is where that extra $100,000 from?
Yeah.
Or that can be put on the,
Sure.
for
You
future.
talk about.
Yeah.
Ellen, we'll come back to that, because I wouldn't be prepared to answer. I don't remember all of the ads or anything.
Tom may have a copy of the original contract. Do you have access to it, Tom?
I do not have it up right now. If I could get online, I might be able to get into the system and find it while we're meeting here. Otherwise, I could circulate it after the meeting.
Okay, otherwise Heather, do you have a copy in the file?
I don't, because
No.
I'm not on the truck committee.
No, but it should have been, the chief should have kept a copy of it.
I can go look in his office.
Chief Saul should have had a copy
I
of
can
it.
go look in his office and see if,
Okay, because Barry, my understanding was it was a certain price, and then with the change orders, it went up to $998, but I could be wrong.
That's my question.
It's a good question.
Thank you. And I don't need an answer tonight, but I just wanted to get it put out on the table that we can,
Yeah, my understanding was
next
that the
meeting.
city of Ripon's portion was $770,000. And so, I never calculated what the town of Ripon or the town of Nebiescom's contribution would be, but I did, calculate the city of Ripon. And so if it was $772,000 for the city, that tells me that we're talking somewhere in the $800,000 range.
All right, well, we'll move on. Heather's looking.
Public.
If Tom, you can get online or not.
Yeah,
We'll come back to it.
Sorry, I would need Wi-Fi access. I don't know if we have a password.
All right. No other public comment. I will move on to agenda item 4. So considering discuss act of Ripon Area Fire District budgetary matters pertaining to the fire engine purchase and amendments to district bylaws. My only comment here, for the sake of record keeping and everyone's sanity tonight, is try not to talk over each other, because I feel like we will all be wanting to talk, so just please try not to talk over each other. Ellen, are we opening, or is it switching to Tom to open? 'Cause we have that document.
Maybe Tom could open because he sent a privileged memo to the committee board.
Sure, I'm happy to open up the discussion if that's helpful if no one else has questions. We circulated it well. I think everyone on the fire district board should have had a chance to receive and review that. So I don't need to reiterate word for word. I think there's a couple aspects to this whole thing that probably merits some discussion. The reality is that the last fire district board meeting, the revised budget was approved. That triggered a bylaw process for that revised budget to go to the 3-member municipalities for them to then approve that budget. Once approved, that would trigger the responsibility of the funds to be released by the municipalities. The city of Ripon was the first municipality to meet. Have the towns had their meetings yet, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think the city was the first to meet after the fire district meeting.
No.
Neither here nor there.
We
Mine,
met first,
Or did,
you went to the meeting after, the next night.
we met on the second Monday.
and approve the expenditure.
Nebraska met first.
Okay,
We met first.
sorry, and approve the expenditure,
Correct.
the revised budget, I
Change the
should say.
budget, yep.
And approve the revised budget of the town. The city council then met and took action, as I understand it, to approve the revised budget, but conditioned and contingent upon the other member municipalities and the fire district accepting a set of revised bylaws that the city took the liberty of preparing. So the city in that council meeting actually took the action of approving those draft bylaws from the city's perspective. Any amendment or restatement of the fire district's bylaws would require all 3 municipalities to approve those bylaw amendments. We last formally did that back in 2010. That's the operative bylaws that exist. Some of you were around back when we did that last time. So I think the technical requirement to amend the bylaws is a 3/4 requirement because of the number of members. It amounts to requiring unanimous municipality approval in order to formally amend the bylaws. So we don't have unanimous municipal approval of the revised budget because the city's is contingent on the bylaws. That requires then this body, as well as the 2 townships, to deliberate and decide how to move forward. We've provided our sort of analysis and thoughts on it, and I'm happy to elaborate on that here tonight if that's helpful. I think ultimately this body has what I would break down as 4 options for how to proceed. And we could either start with those options, or we could also get into a more detailed review of the revised bylaw provisions themselves. I do have some thoughts and comments on that. So I don't know if this body has a preference in terms of where we want to start that conversation, or if there's any questions.
I don't know if we've seen the revised bylaws. Have you guys seen them? Oh, it's in here? Oh, shoot, got the wrong one.
There's 2 provisions that were basically added to the bylaws in what the city has approved. And they both appear in Article 10, which deals with attachment and detachment from the fire district. So we're talking about the process and procedures for municipalities to either join or to leave the district. There's 2 sections that have been added. One really relates to attachment requirements and one relates to detachment requirements. Our view of these bylaws is that we would not recommend that the fire district approve these bylaws. We represent the district, that's who we're speaking on behalf of. There's a host of problems with the bylaws as drafted, regardless of how you view this in terms of conditioning monetary payment in exchange for the bylaw reviews. Even if it was totally separate, we see some problems that are significant with the bylaws as drafted and as approved by the city. Article 10.c in the revised bylaws dealing with attachment. Bottom line, I think it creates a significant chilling effect for the district to seek new membership, given that it creates a requirement for any additional municipalities that would look to attach to buy in at a proportional current value of all district assets. So that's a significant shift from what the current entry point is. We think there's some serious drafting deficiencies in the bylaws as prepared that have ambiguities and frankly create a high likelihood of confusion in future litigation if they were to be adopted as drafted. There's a valuation clause in that article that requires adjustment for, quote, significant current year capital investments. Significance not defined in the agreement. That leaves a hugely open issue as to what sort of significant capital improvements could be added to the valuation calculation for determining someone's buy-in price. That section provides that the, quote, amount that should be shared with the attaching municipality before attaching, or it provides that the amount of the buy-in, quote, should be shared with the attaching municipality before attaching any new area to the district. Should be shared creates a concept, but it doesn't create a mandatory requirement. We feel that should be mandatory if this provision were even to be considered. Article 10.c refers to a buy-in price with multiple inconsistent terms that would need to be made consistent and at a minimum defined. In that one paragraph, it refers variably to the, quote, assessed asset buy-in, quote, amount equal to proportional share they will have in district's assets, and, quote, buy-in calculation. All of these terms used in slightly different ways. That provision provides that the, quote, equipment transferred and accepted from an attaching municipality shall be credited towards the buy-in price, meaning if a municipality was going to bring a truck or bring some piece of equipment, that should in theory credit against the cash buy-in price. That makes sense in concept, but it only refers to equipment, leaving unanswered and undefined whether that would apply to other types of vehicle or apparatus that are beyond the definition of equipment, other tools, other real estate, boats, turnout gear, training supplies, all the sorts of things that can be used or supplied or contributed to a district are undefined and currently not counted towards what would be part of the value of a municipal's attachment buy-in. The provision provides that the equipment credit would be valued at, quote, estimated fair market value. That again is an undefined term in the bylaws. It doesn't say who gets to make that estimate. It doesn't define what or how you would come up with an estimated fair market value for the equipment, and the equipment is also undefined. And it provides that following attachment of a new municipality, all, quote, new assets acquired by the district shall be shared and funded. We think that creates some ambiguity about used assets, other ways that this district does acquire assets from time to time that might not be considered new equipment or new asset purchases. That's the provisions about attachment. For those reasons, we think, again, they create a significant chilling effect on seeking new membership, which was one of the stated purposes of trying to do this, was create a process or a procedure to potentially encourage new members to attach. Any municipality interested in attaching, I think, would be put off by these ambiguities and things that frankly could lead to future dispute or litigation. Article 10.e is added to the new bylaws, details the detachment procedures. Again, we think this creates significant risk for the district. We think it creates significant risk for the other member municipalities of the district. Financial insecurity of the district if these procedures were to be followed. Basically what it provides for is a 12-month notice period for a municipality to detach from the district. We think this is not necessarily market reasonable time period. We do see provisions like this in municipal detachment clauses, when there's other shared fire protection or other sort of municipal service districts. 12 months is an exceptionally short period of time when you're talking about potentially disbanding a municipal fire protection district, dividing up proportionally the assets, and then having the district and the other municipalities need to make budgetary decisions for how things will continue or disband. That's a tall order to happen in less than one complete budget cycle. Again, there's drafting issues with this language as it was approved that create current likelihood of confusion and potential risk for future litigation for the fire district. The provisions provide that the value, it provides that if a municipality was going to detach, that they should be entitled to receive basically their proportional share of the value of all of the district's assets upon detachment. That's the current change. Right now, there's no value provided to a detaching municipality. The issues come in a few various places where the language provides that in determining that value, that it shall be, quote, calculated based on a distribution of the district's assets using the 5-year rolling equivalized land improvements valuation within the municipalities. I'm not sure what that's trying to get at. The 5-year equalized value is a concept to determine the percentage cost share of the municipalities based on the valuation of the respective land of the municipalities that comprise the district. But calculating the value based on the equalized value of land improvements, I think, is not what's intended, but certainly that's not how you would divide and distribute the value. I think the intent would be to divide and distribute the actual asset value of the district, not the actual value of the 5-year equalized value of land within the district. So it's simply not workable. There's some other just drafting issues, typos and inconsistencies that would need to be cleared up before any adoption would be seriously considered. A discussion would need to take place about how practically you even divide the assets of a district like this. There's not exactly a huge amount of cash or investments that are owned by the district, so you literally would be talking about the division of real estate, trucks, equipment, things of that nature. So that happens, right? I mean, that's how these things sometimes end and get divided, but some serious thought needs to go into how you design the plan and the program to do that, rather than just saying it happens. There's references in this language to the community who is the host of the station. It's not exactly defined. I'm sure what it means is the community where the station resides, where the property actually lies. I think that merits some clarification. It goes on to provide that the host community has what is called, quote, the first right to the land and building as part of disposition of asset calculation. I don't know what that means. There's not a set of options related to the real estate, so I don't know what granting the first right to the land gets at, other than to say, if the municipality detaches, i.e. the city, and the fire station is located in the city would have the first right to take that real estate as part of their detachment payment. I think that's the intent. What's not clear in how this is drafted is it doesn't indicate whether the city would have the first right if it was determined that the real estate was being disbanded and no longer used for district purposes, or if the city would have the unilateral right to require the real estate to be provided to them as part of their payment. That provision is ambiguous about how that would be applied. There's language in here that talks about appraisal for determining the value of the real estate. If the real estate were to be used as partial payment for a detachment payoff, then we need to have a mechanism for how you value the real estate. The current language provides that an appraisal of real estate, of land and a building, would need to be appraised. It doesn't define all potential buildings, potential outbuildings. It should really apply to all real estate that may ever be owned by the district, would certainly be meant to be encompassed by that provision. And we also need to have some language that would identify how a reasonable appraisal is conducted. It says the appraisal is to be paid by the community rather than the municipality. I don't think that's any sort of nefarious intent, but it is an inconsistent term. We don't use the term community to refer to any of the member municipalities. We want to pretty explicitly refer to member municipalities when we're talking about payment obligations, so that it's not viewed as an additional taxpayer expense that would read odd to the public at a minimum. So for those reasons, I can't recommend that this board authorize the bylaws that have been approved by the city council. It would not be in the best interest of the district to do so. That doesn't mean that it may not be in the interest of all parties to have reasonable discussion about bylaw revisions and updates. I think that's always true. You know, life changes, circumstances change, documents can be refreshed. You can have reasonable discussions about that. These provisions that have been approved don't represent the result of a collaborative approach. These haven't been presented to us before they were adopted. They were prepared and drafted without legal counsel input of the body that they are the bylaws of. So it's a unique procedural step, to say the least. All that being said, I think what that leaves this body with is 4 options in terms of how to proceed, because you are weighing the very practical impact of this, in that this community needs a fire truck. That's clear because of the decision of this body 3 years ago to buy a fire truck. One thing to make very clear is that under the bylaws of the district, and we talked about this at the last meeting, this body and this board does retain exclusive right and authority to make purchases on behalf of the district. Okay, so the issue is about funding, and that there is some distinction between the ability to purchase and of course needing to have the ability to fund that purchase. So your 4 options, really: take no action to approve the bylaws, and leave it to the municipalities to either approve or not approve the budget. The towns have already done that, I think unconditionally, and the funds are available. Correct me if I'm misspeaking. The funds are presumably available at the city level, since the expenditure has been approved, even though it's conditional. So if there was no action taken on the bylaws, it could be something that the city could choose to go back and conduct a special meeting to revisit the issue and see if they wanted to approve funding for the truck to be purchased. The second option would be to approve the bylaws as presented. You could act tonight under the agenda to simply approve the bylaws that the city has approved. That would then send the bylaws to the towns for their municipal boards to consider and review and determine if they wanted to adopt the bylaws verbatim as prepared. We don't think that's an advisable option. We recommend against it, but certainly it's within the power of this board to approve the bylaws if you wanted to facilitate moving forward with the city's plan. The third option would be to formally, at this board level, agree to form an ad hoc committee with the intention of undergoing bylaw review and engaging in meaningful discussion about bylaw amendments, but not having it tied to and conditioned with the funding for the fire truck that you're under purchase contract obligation to buy. The fourth option would be to basically start a process of preparing proposed revisions to the bylaws that were drafted and approved by the city, and to basically start, a process of document revision and negotiation amongst the municipalities. That option, most of these options likely jeopardize the ability to obtain the $13,000 purchase price credit, which requires I believe a January payment. Ellen, correct, is there a specific date for that payment, or is it just in January?
That date has passed, but I've spoken with Leslie, and what it means is we have a 90-day window, and if we can put a down payment on the truck within that 90-day window, we would get a discount of $152 per day of the balance of the 90 days.
Got it, okay.
So we've lost the $13,000. We've lost it. However, we can recover some of it within that 90-day period.
Yep, understood. So there's no option that allows for an immediate path forward. If this board approved the bylaws as presented, at a minimum, it would require the 2 townships to hold additional special meetings to consider and approve the bylaws as presented. I don't represent the towns. I think it unlikely that the towns would approve the bylaws as drafted, based on the insight I've had from their legal counsel. But that would be a procedure that could be undertaken. So I'll take a breath there. I know I threw a lot at you. There's a lot to digest in both in terms of policy and procedure and also the actual underlying language of the documents. I'm happy to field questions, or you're certainly free to discuss amongst yourselves.
I guess just for my own comments, I appreciate the quick summary. In my reading of you guys, I feel like out of the four, passing the amendments along with your recommendation of not, right, as is probably off the table. I don't think we're gonna come out of
That's
here.
my,
Yeah.
my
So-
feeling,
But I don't, we're gonna spend like 30 minutes and we could go around the circle, right?
yeah.
Not gonna get there probably, right? So I don't think that's one we need to talk about, but that's just me. So I think between those four, some form of an ad hoc committee, not that I wanna say we should make a committee, but some form of an ad hoc committee, and or talking amongst ourselves and coming up with some form of what Tom laid out and encompassing that into the bylaws. But I don't know if we can adequately get there tonight with us. And it was gonna be a question I had to Ellen and Tom, and maybe this has been answered already. If this is something that, Ellen as the president, or me because you're not here, and Tom and council from the town, and, somebody from the town can get together and that can be the committee, right? Like, at least have someone designated from the city and the town, and then the two legal counsels, and see if in that group, you guys predominantly as the legal authority can get to something that is then presented to all of the town municipal boards.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
May I make a comment? I had been trying to put an ad hoc committee together since September.
Agreed, I understand that in my comment.
You were appointed to that, the towns would not come to the table. How can we trust them to
Don't-
negotiate?
Well, I would say,
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I would say that, if we all acknowledge where we got to today, and acknowledging that we've all tried to work together, if we bring in the two councils together, and you guys are on board, and your council is on board, I think we all understand that we need to hit a deadline, whether it's the 13,000 minus 152 per day, or whether it's just the actual writing the check to buy it, right? We all at this table know we need to hit that, and there's roadblocks in front of us. And in my assessment, I think bringing the two counselors together. So I totally understand what your comment is on the ad hoc. So, sorry to talk over.
What do we owe for this down payment?
Heather, did you find the contract?
I found what Cooper had in his office, but it doesn't say what we have to pay for the down payment.
The down payment is $400,000, I have that.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was wondering.
But I think Larry's question is what is the total cost of the truck? Now, the initial contract does not have the $13,000 in change orders.
This is what I found.
Yeah, but potentially if we find the original contract and Heather or someone can go back through change orders, we can get there to at least answer Barry's question. Right?
This is what they wanted for the chassis.
Oh, that
Was $458,000.
and that's due now.
As soon as we get.
So Tom, you,
Yeah, this is the copy we've seen electronically of the original purchase agreement. The original purchase price here was set at $885,000. I don't see this laying out the additions, but it does have a paragraph that deals
It's,
with change
there is
orders.
a minute somewhere, Tom, there's Cooper had prepared an itemized list and requested that the board approve that change order. That change order was for $13,000, which makes it $998,000.
Well, the original price was $885, and so, there must have been some additional change to get to,
Was material cost adjustment done?
Eight
Yeah, but not the-
85
Not the
plus
998,000.
You're adding 113, Ellen. We're just saying 13.
Yeah, I made a mistake then. I made a mistake. It is 8,098. So Barry caught it. Thank you, Barry.
So the total current is 898, not 998.
898.
And the 13,000 represents the change orders, which that could have been credited with a previous payment of the 400,000 if it would have come time. Okay. Do you want, just so we don't lose track of that?
Yep, I'll put it back.
Thanks.
So you've been in contact with their council, at least through email, through something?
I'm sorry, the town's council did reach out to me,
Okay.
and just sort of acknowledged awareness of this whole process. Indicated they weren't gonna be able to attend tonight, maybe you guys have spoken to them, so correct me if I'm misspeaking, but, that he was tuned into the concept, that's about all I know. I haven't had any substantive discussions with him, other than his expression to me that he didn't foresee recommending approval of the bylaws as prepared to his municipal bodies. So I think what you just articulated would make a lot of sense. I mean, the reality is, there's two realities, right? One reality is there's a fire truck that needs to be paid for. And one reality is that there are thoughts that some of the member municipalities have about changes that should be contemplated for the bylaws. I mean, I think those are the facts that are on the table. And to Ellen's point, there's a certain amount of what maybe has transpired, but generally speaking, looking in the rearview mirror is not necessarily a productive way for us to find a solution. And I think, Jonathan, to your point, it's what's the legal resolution to find a path forward so that this body doesn't find itself in default with the manufacturer of the fire truck.
Tom?
Well, Layton's just pointing out to me that, our approval was for to add the 998,000 to the budget, because that's what we were told.
That's what was on that, yeah, it was 998.
It's a good surprise then.
So we
It
have
is.
to,
It's gonna have to go
Usually
back.
works the
I
other way around.
apologize.
It is a good surprise, Gary.
so I assume that means that this board then has to re-amend or make another amendment to our budget with the revised capital line item on it in any case because of the typographical error.
Yes. No, it was user error. No, it wasn't a typographical error.
Yeah, but
And
I think from a procedural standpoint, you're exactly right. And it's also, I think, fair to say that even if we didn't have that error, procedurally, we're probably in the same place because the respective bodies need to make decisions and there's disagreement on sort of like the decision that's on the table right now. So you're going back to the municipal bodies, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, and
And
we
so-
would have had to come back to Ripon with the amendments to whatever the bylaws are, right?
If that was the path, yeah, so, short of this body and the two towns just voting to approve, which I don't, with what I've been told is not feasible. Then you're at a point where you have to go back to every municipality and every body to seek reapproval. So in that sense, you could get the money, you could get the revised budget right, it results in frankly, a not insubstantial reduction of what's been approved.
Covers the 13,000 that we lost.
That's one way to make up for the.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
From a time standpoint, if we would form an ad hoc committee to discuss bylaws, are we talking about the possibility that that discussion could occur and the approval would occur in time enough to act on our agreed contract to purchase a truck?
I think the best course of action from this body's perspective is to not have the two adjoined at the hip, right? There's a contract has been signed to purchase the truck, the funding is available from all municipalities. The best course of action for this body is to get the funding to complete the purchase of the truck. The idea about, from my recommendation would be that it'd be totally reasonable to agree to form an ad hoc committee and to do that earnestly, right? Not just in name or to get the purchase, but to do that, perhaps to set some time deadlines or parameters about meeting requirements or who's gonna sit on that committee. You know, I mean, there's ways that you could structure that. That doesn't guarantee a result, right? That has to be the result of the work of that committee. But
They're coming to the same result we have right now, I mean.
at the end of the day, the three municipalities have to unanimously agree on changes to the bylaws. So somehow, some way, those three parties have to agree on verbiage if there's gonna be a change. That's correct. So it just necessarily means that you've got to get bylaw revisions that are reasonable and approved by everybody. There's just no other alternative.
Well, but I don't understand. You know, we voted to get the fire truck. Everybody knew we needed the fire truck. Why do bylaws, I don't understand why the bylaws should even be part of that. I mean, if the bylaws gotta be changed, then change them, but why should that be part of buying the fire truck? I mean, I know why it is, because somebody decided it was gonna be, but to me, it's a crock.
I think there's, I think that we could have addressed the bylaws 2 years ago.
Yeah,
3 years ago, we could have addressed that. I think we're finding more. I mean, Ellen's constantly bringing them, so. But your point's taken.
to me, this whole thing is basically, okay, we got them by the balls now, we're gonna squeeze them. We aren't gonna pass anything unless you approve the bylaws. To me, it's coercion or blackmail or whatever you wanna call it. And I don't understand it, cause when it all started out, oh, we didn't know we had to buy a fire engine. So that was a problem. And then, well, we'll buy the fire engine, we'll lease it back to the fire district. Now it's, we'll buy the fire engine, but only if you approve the bylaws. To me, that's just not, I've been on this fire district since it was started. We've never treated things like that before. We've always had some disagreements, but we've always worked them out. We never threatened people or to me, it just seems completely wrong. And, you know, she talked about trust. Well, what kind of trust have we got? I mean, I like you people. But when this stuff happens, it just kind of gets me a little bit inflamed.
I think from the city's point of view, the fear is it's such a large financial commitment and not having a clear plan of funding EMS and fire and everything else that needs to happen from the city of Ripon's side. It was not prudent for the city to just put that capital expenditure in without working towards some sort of better agreement if there were changes to organizational structure in the next 1 to 2 years. And I think it's probably a pretty strong way to approach that, to have conditionals, and I thought that as well. But it also, I would say, forces the discussion, which is maybe not a good way to foster discussion at ultimatum. But there are certain, I mean, when we originally looked at bylaws, I brought up some of the things that were a little weird, or I've said that it's definitely necessary that we look at it. And I think we're past the point now where these amendments are on the table for serious consideration, but maybe what we need to do is look at, well, what structurally and organizationally do we need to clarify in our bylaws so that this never happens again? So that moving forward, there is more clarity.
May I say something here?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. We worked long and hard on these bylaws when they were first passed.
Mhm.
The reason that you're in or you're out is because we didn't want people coming in, spending the money and then leaving.
Mhm.
To me, when I look at this, and because this has been going on for a while, I'm looking at it, and we had a meeting with Mr. Sontag there, and he said, we can't have it without the city being in charge of it, which sticks in my mind.
Can't have what?
We can't, when they're talking about moving the EMS and the fire together, it can't work with a fire district. It's gotta be the city, it's gotta handle it. That's the only way there can be, after 2 and some hours, discussion.
Okay.
Tells me nobody wants to work with us anyway. The other thing is, okay, so I have to have in my mind, if you're so gung ho on this, it's worked for, 20-some years so far. You put in and you get along and you make your decisions, or you get out. So, we've been talking about trying to get more people in here. When you see this happening, why would somebody wanna get here? The reason the other two are gone is for the same darn reason. And it's like now we sit here. The smart thing to do, everybody pony up for the damn truck and then let's see what goes on from there. But, that can't happen because that's too darn simple. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what to say about it. I'm getting older, I'm getting tired. I don't need all this baloney for no reason at all. It makes me wonder, okay, if you're so gung-ho and you wanna get out of this, if this is so important, and you must wanna get out. Where does that leave the fire district?
Yeah, and I don't think,
Well,
I get what you're saying.
but I'm just saying things that go through my mind here.
Well,
I get it.
I'll take that thought and run with it, because what would happen to this district? I mean, I've said to you before, and I'll say it here, I'm sitting on this board as a board member with the full intention and capability and wanting to continue Ripon Area Fire District for as long as we can continue operating financially responsible and under the provisions and protection of our municipalities, right? And so whatever may happen and this is where I have to play switching hats, right? Because
We're supposed to be wearing the fire
Right.
district hat. Well,
now, yep, and that's what I'm wearing right now. So City of Ripon may decide it's not financially tenable for them to support the fire district, and if they do then withdraw and decide to take the hit for all that, well, whatever happens then is for the City of Ripon and the taxpayers to then reconcile and the common council to figure out moving forward. But where would that leave Ripon Area Fire District? I think if we were to lose any other municipality for any reason right now, it would be a death blow, which to me points to maybe we aren't really operating so great, and maybe we have some more structural issues and some more core issues that we can kind of really identify and enumerate and say, hey, we don't ever want to be in this position again. So we're going to write within our charter, within the very words that govern how we operate, what happens in maybe not any scenario, but what happens in these scenarios that is equitable, that continues operation and continues protection for the municipalities. Because right now, there's just a huge question mark. There's nobody could really say what would happen if we do option 1, 2, or 3. I mean, it would basically mean I would assume would disband, and then thered be no protection, and we'd have to get private or whatever from another municipality. There'd be all kinds of,
Well, the thing is, it probably, I don't know why it would happen, but we have to provide fire protection for it's state statute.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've really got no option. You know, if it wasn't rolled up the way it was, the city, Ripon Row was a fire district, just like the city of Ripon had their own fire thing for years, and it worked just fine.
Mhm.
The problem came out when we had to buy a building. And everybody was looking for protection on that building.
Yeah.
And the protection was, we're gonna do this building, you're gonna pay for your percentage of this building, regardless if you stay or if you don't. Because we can't start a building and have
Right.
4 guys decide, okay, we're paying so much a year next year, we gotta pay it.
You're out, yeah,
Nobody's gonna do that.
you're paying the remaining share if somebody leaves, right?
Right,
You're
for
stuck on
just
the hook.
somebody left, you know, somebody,
And I agree, and I see that, but that was 30-ish
so
years ago.
what difference is it,
when-
what difference does years ago make?
When you initiate a district versus right now, we are not discussing initiating a district, we are discussing the continued operation of a district, right?
Yes.
So there's where the questions kind of change, and that's where you have to maybe, instead of thinking about, well, how do we divvy up, or how did we, or what do we do when everything's in the pot and somebody leaves, you say, well, no, we have these resources, we have things in front of us, how do we get it structured so that it's in the best interest of everyone to continue moving forward? And I think right now what you're feeling is that the best interest of everyone moving forward is probably diverging. And I can say, I don't have any knowledge of that. I want Ripon Fire District to
I
continue on as
don't
we
think-
are.
I don't think anybody's dumb enough to get out right now. I mean, why would you?
Right, well, and
We can't
We
find
need
enough firemen,
right, we need to operate under the assumption that we are going to continue operate, because if we start operating under the assumption that we're gonna be splitting apart and fracturing, we're already
Right,
behind, we're already down the hole.
but I never imagined that paying for a fire truck would require changing the bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
so I mean, there you got that aspect.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard somebody say, well, you know, the city's just paying too big a portion of this. And you know, the city's not paying this, their taxpayers are paying this.
they're paying for the service that the fire district,
They're paying, you're
Provides them.
assessing those people for a fire service.
Yep.
Those people are paying the same as Town of Nepiescum people, Town of Ripon people.
Yep.
We're all paying the same thing. Now, I don't know what's so hard if somebody says, you know, we're paying too much for a fire district, asking them what they could do different. But to say that, you know, the impression I get from is that the city's paying too much. And the city's not paying too much, then the towns are paying too much too. I mean, it's I just, sometimes I just wanna blow my nose.
Barry, anything you can say on camera?
Can they shut that off?
I did pretty good, I think.
You did.
We can go to an ad hoc closed session and shut it.
No, I think the towns are open to have discussion about this. We're not closed-minded to not changing any bylaws at all. When this all started, the biggest problem was the way it went about, or how it came about.
Sure.
It was your way or no way. And, you know,
I think that's not correct. I think, you know, you've asked to be at the table repeatedly. When you are at the table, you were asked to come to the table in September to moderate language, to change language, to negotiate, and no one did it. So this has been going on since September. So don't, you know, it's disingenuous to say you weren't asked, because you were. The whole board was asked. We agreed to an ad hoc committee, but we couldn't call the committee because the towns wouldn't participate.
Well, then you could have started your committee without us.
We can't because you're part of it. You are part of the district. You're an important part of the district. Your opinion matters, but you would not come to the table.
I think acknowledging both of your comments, and Barry, you did say that the town right now is open, so forgetting September, forgetting everything up until now, right? You are open to coming and discussing. And I'm not saying that.
That's the only way to go forward is,
And I'm not saying that we get through a discussion and we're not any closer, right? That's a possibility too, but like the next step is the discussion, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's something that we can leave tonight actually having on the books. I don't wanna speak to for your council, I have no idea, right?
well, council's never gonna tell you not to talk. Well, unless you've been
Yeah.
Graham.
Tom, so what do you think, about a week? You can get with our council and talk this through? Get a framework going, and then get the ad hoc committee to sit down and hash out the language? I think you and their council ought to get together and draw something out that's palatable for them.
Well, I don't represent
No,
their
but-
towns.
But their council, can you talk with their council?
He informed me that he is their counsel, and that's about as far as the discussion
Yeah,
went. So we know the town's council.
Can you get with them and see if you could sit down with them?
I would say.
Well, of course we could. I'm not gonna say that that's reasonable that we're gonna have completed bylaws within a week. I don't think that's a reasonable
But I think it's
expectation.
important that if he's going to do it or not.
Well,
if-
Sure,
Oh, he'll do it. I mean-
I operate, I'm the district's attorney, and this board can absolutely decide to direct me to reach out to the council that represents the other municipalities, and I would absolutely do that. We could facilitate that discussion. This board, you're right, you couldn't direct and have the towns commit, or the city commit to the ad hoc committee, but this board could commit to it so that it goes to the respective municipalities to sign on to the concept, right? So I think the appropriate, or the feasible action would be if this board approved that concept or that procedure, and then directed me to reach out to the respective legal counsel for the municipalities to do that. I think having some additional clarity from this board about the desired sort of size and structure of that committee, if you want to extend it beyond purely just the legal counsel of the respective municipalities. Because I'll tell you this, I don't think the legal counsel for the towns or the district, I can't speak for city council other than they've given this a lot more thought as a result of the bylaws that have been prepared. But I'm not in a position independently to even know what the will of the respective bodies is to put something on paper. So there's there's collaborative work that needs to happen to say, this is what we want to see. And that's then, lawyers can help facilitate that discussion. And we can then help craft the legal documents that represent that will. But it's hard for us, Doug, to leave this meeting and for the lawyers to just craft the bylaws, because we don't know what we're trying to accomplish.
Let me always say.
I understand that. I'm just looking to see if you can get with them and have a time to sit down and
100%.
talk through this, and then maybe bring something back. I just want to see the process start.
Absolutely, and I think that it already has to a degree in the fact that their attorneys reached out to us and acknowledged that they were aware of this issue and that they would frankly be in touch with us after this meeting. So that's where that stands. I think that process did start. I think you mentioned earlier the concept of we do need to operate as if we're existing and continuing. And the reality is, we do have a contractual obligation, this body does, to purchase a fire engine. We do need to legitimately secure the funding to complete that purchase obligation, and that's where we stand, right? As we advised you during the last meeting, the best course of action legally and procedurally is to approve the amended budget. It's gonna be amended again based on the revised number that we learned tonight. And that would then be circulated to the municipalities for their approval. That's where this stands. Now, I think, I can't speak for any of the municipalities, but I think to give that the best shot of moving forward to gaining unanimous approval, if this body also took some action to sort of formally agree on the next steps in terms of that discussion, that
guess-
feels reasonable.
I guess my hope here right now after this conversation is that we come out making a board action as a fire board to direct you to reach out to town council, right? And they do share a council, so that's one person, right?
Mhm.
And then we also come out of here with the action that we form a committee of one person from each municipality to meet with you guys. And whether that's meeting over the phone or that's here or wherever, whatever's easiest. But I think those are the two actions we need to come out of here to at least make a good faith effort.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
It's all three legal councils, yeah, they have to include the city of Ripon.
Oh, you're right.
I would take that one step further and even ask, as the board council, what risks do you see, and I know you're not gonna necessarily have like, a very precise, maybe piece by piece, but in our current bylaws, what risk is the fire district taking on, or where are we open to further issues? I mean, let's set aside the engine for just a second and maybe step off of some of the attachment and detachment amendments, but there's certainly, in my reading, there's certainly other language clarifications or questions that may arise or maybe be brought up. Could you, maybe speak to anything you saw in that?
Yeah, I'm not fully prepared to speak on the entire bylaws and
Sure.
whether we have recommended changes. It's certainly something we could evaluate and look at. I think as it relates to the general section we've been discussing tonight, I think where the city's proposed language stems from is what you articulated earlier. And that really relates to the detachment concept, right? Because you're talking about a current member and the concerns and risks they feel about the investment and how it would look if you were to detach from the district. Is that a fair representation of what you were talking about? The other side of the coin is the attachment question. And I think if you've asked me what sort of risks exist in the current structure, we all know that there could be some benefit to finding additional municipalities to participate, right? That helps spread out the cost burden, and it's a, rising tide floats all boats kind of a thing. The concern that's been articulated by your city attorney is that those attachment and detachment provisions as they exist currently don't necessarily encourage a new municipality to join because they may feel that, okay, we joined, that's fine, there's an easy entry point, right? The entry point's the easy part. But then the idea is we become financially contributing to the district, and then if we ever leave, you leave without anything. That's just the way it's worked, right? And there were reasons for why that was set up. To your point though too, that was when you're creating something new, and now we are talking about continuing something that is grown and
Protecting the
mature.
district, we're not
Okay?
initiating it.
So I think there could be, it would be appropriate for this board to give some thought as to if we seriously want to encourage additional municipalities to join this board, right, for those benefits that you've identified. That there are things that you could look at in terms of the governance structure of the board that might help create and develop incentive for additional municipalities that might make it a more palatable thing to consider to join. I think that's fair. Now, how exactly do you design that? What are the right levers to pull? That I don't have an immediate answer for you.
That's where we look
And-
at prior art, and we look at what have other municipalities done,
Exactly.
and what's
And-
successful in other areas, and can we, take
Correct.
language or ideas from that and kind of craft them to fit what we
Yeah,
need.
and there are other examples, and there are municipalities that have done this, and there's, the committee could weigh in on that. And I think some of what the town's proposed amendments were intending to deal with is some of what I just articulated, right? Is to make attachment a more attractive prospect to member municipalities or future member municipalities. And I think every member municipality would recognize that there could be benefit to the district to growing the district.
Definitely.
My concern as it's drafted is that I think the attachment provisions, listen, this isn't about a blame game, it's just about what's my recommendation for the district. And I think as drafted, it would actually, could sort of counterintuitively create an additional chilling effect for someone looking to buy in. One, you do create a steeper buy-in. And there might be some merit to that, right? Like making sure a municipality is serious about what they're doing and that they've got some skin in the game. That those are fair things to talk about. But you've got to think about what is that appropriate buy-in, what's that barrier to entry? I don't have that answer, but that's something that needs to be thought about. And then in conjunction with that, if someone's going to buy in at that price, they're going to necessarily care quite a bit about how it works if another one of the member municipalities decides to detach. And then what's the impact on my investment as a new municipality? And so they have to be read and thought of together. And so if one of those provisions or both are too unbalanced or not taking into account those sort of competing perspectives, that's where you're going to end up with, I believe, a set of governance rules that creates a generally chilling effect. Even though we're trying to create a more inviting structure, we put a lot of verbiage into something, but I don't know that we've achieved the intended result. Does that answer your question? It's not a laundry list of what could be improved in these bylaws. I'm sure if you got into them, there's other things that could be addressed, and that'd be fair to look at.
That would be my recommendation for moving forward, to have council meet when the municipalities meet with council to really focus on where is that risk, where are the things that made sense but maybe are actually, I don't want to say hurting, but maybe are a hindrance to the operation, or maybe are areas where we could become more efficient or something. I mean, there's certain things in the board oversight structure and how it relates to the officers and such that I know we've been addressing with our guidelines and policies as far as operations go, but there's also, it talks directly to it in here, and that there's questions then of, okay, we're changing things on operation for officers and any sort of disciplinary actions or any sort of promotional actions, are those then also being reflected in and working alongside what we want here in the bylaws? So those are things that, would need to be thought about or should at least be brought up and maybe compared or contrasted
To make sure you have
where other
governance
things are.
consistency and uniformity across,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If we embark on the process of discussing bylaw changes, what are we gonna do with our fire truck purchase? Is it gonna be, are we conditioning the fire truck purchase?
In my opinion, right now, they're vaguely decoupled, right? They don't need to necessarily be coupled, right? We all need to go back to our respective municipalities for the amended budget for one, right? So there's that. But the actual purchasing of it, we all agreed to, and we're just talking about funding, and we're talking about bylaws, right? So there's three separate things on the table. And not to say that they're not all important, and not to say that one doesn't need a path forward to the other, I don't know. But right now, I think we have until, when April? Am I right? When is it? Yeah, right? So we have until April, right? So that's our runway here. And so I guess to me, it feels like a little bit of triage, and that we're trying to fix or address and discuss the one thing, right? And then as we work through that, we'll focus on the next thing. I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I see it as separate but contemporaneous approvals that could come out of this board tonight, which would, one, be to approve the amended budget to present to the member municipalities for the
898.
the 898 amount, period. That would then trigger that amended, or that approved amended budget would go to the municipalities and trigger their requirement to review and act on that. Okay? I think separately, if it's the will of this board, you could take formal action to sort of direct this committee and legal counsel next step. We can do that under the agenda, which provides for consideration, discussion, and action as it relates to fire district budgetary matters pertaining to the fire engine purchase and amendment to the district bylaws. So we've got the ability to act on both fronts tonight, and I would view them as separate actions from this board.
Yeah, I guess, and so to possibly move it along, I guess I would entertain a motion from someone to approve the amended budget of 898. You can correct me if I'm saying that wrong, Ellen, but 898 is
Well, I've been saying it wrong, you're correct.
so 898. All else in the budget stays the same. So the only thing corrected in there, and I'm trying to word that specifically because we're not looking at a budget in front of us. So
I will make that motion.
okay, thank you, Tom. Seconded by Gary.
I think we
Someone
need,
has a question in the back. Somebody has a question back there.
Just reference it as a budget amendment number 2.
Budget.
You've amended your budget, so now you're trying to amend that, so it'll be your second budget amendment.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So
It's
as
an
budget
amended
amendment, are you good with
budget.
that, Tom?
Yes.
Gary?
and I think we should also maybe clarify that it's $898,000 as well, just to be
Oh yeah, it's
specific. It's not 898, cents or dollars or
$888,000 US dollars.
Do we need a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, any other conversation? Otherwise, Sorensen,
Yes,
Iverson,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yeah, yes.
Dankert,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Vandenbrink,
Yes.
Gotsky, yes. All right, first motion passes.
So the second amended budget will now go back to the municipalities
With-
for,
What should have been on there to begin with?
with the correct number, final and correct. I will make a motion that this board forms an ad hoc committee of one member per municipality to meet within,
Well,
let's say 2 weeks.
I would say is
Okay.
1 week fair for you to get in contact with legal counsel?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Okay.
within 1 week to get in counsel, within 2 weeks, do you think that's fair to have a first meeting?
I think it's totally fair, subject to people's availability that I
sure.
can't speak for.
Right.
But
Go ahead.
Motion, Daniel, I just,
I
You know,
haven't finished my
I-
motion, but,
yeah,
Right.
do we wanna get a motion on the table?
and then we'll
If
discuss it.
there is one and second it, then
Yeah.
we can open for discussion and possible amendment.
So I'll move that we create the ad hoc committee to review any bylaw changes that may be prudent to the continuing operation of the fire district that contains one person from each member municipality, legal counsel as needed, because I'm opening it
Legal counsel required
required at
from each,
Okay.
from
each,
yeah.
okay, legal counsel required, meeting within, 1 week. That is my movement. sounds complicated, but I think we all understand what I'm saying. Hopefully.
Watching Doug draft a novel over there. Anyone second that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Barry. Alright, discussion.
Alright. Our biggest thing right now is get this fire truck, right? That's our main objective.
Yep. So
So now, we do this, so you're saying we're gonna get all the bylaws and all that before the fire truck is done, is what you're trying to say?
No, that's not what I said at all.
Good, that's why I asked the
Okay.
question. But,
I think,
because I don't wanna get hung up on all this committee stuff, and we're still sitting out here with no fire truck.
yeah, so, but I would just say, I understand what you're saying, I think but, so, at a fire district level, we have all approved the budget now, right?
Right.
We approved it, again, you guys already approved it at the town, as is, you guys already approved it at the town as is.
Yeah.
And then it's the city, so regardless of what the city's choice, right, like us, is, not to say irrelevant to this conversation, but it's not that pertinent right now, because it's two separate things, how we're funding it and the bylaws, and maybe they will be always coupled together, I don't know.
What I'm saying is that they're coupled together, we're not any further away than we were before.
I would say, but we don't,
They're separate motions, but here's what happens procedurally coming out of tonight based on how this has been presented here. Okay, the motion for this board to approve the second amended budget triggers a requirement that that budget goes back to the 3-member municipalities. They have to convene, put that on the agenda, and take action to approve it or not. Okay? Just like we did a couple weeks ago. So that's going to happen no matter what happens to whether this motion on the table gets approved or not. This secondary motion, if it were to be approved, simply starts a committee and bylaw discussion process simultaneously. I would say to show good faith amongst the members of this board to work on that. But it's not formally coming out of this body in a coupled or contingent fashion. It's purely, we've got a budget amendment that needs to be approved to facilitate the purchase that this body is under contract to make. And you're separately agreeing, if this motion passes, to convene the committee and within a week, have council and committee members try and coordinate a meeting.
Can we clarify, I mean, can you put a date on it? Is that gonna be the 28th of January?
so I don't wanna put a date on it, because I don't wanna speak for your council, right? Like, I have no idea, so I don't wanna set a date.
Well, we don't either.
But you,
We don't know what
but you do wanna
We,
try to do it within a week.
with it, yeah, my goal would be to have them communicate within a week, and then us to try within 2 weeks to actually have a meeting. That would be my goal.
Give them a little time, you
Yeah.
know, we've got business, I'm assuming, and our attorney's busy, I mean, a week isn't much to.
Yeah, what I envision is within a week, tomorrow, we can initiate contact with the respective parties, and then hopefully within the next week, get an initial meeting on the calendar to discuss and initiate the process.
So the motion would require our board to elect the municipality, well, I guess the municipalities would then choose which member they want to be part of that committee, right? So that is the first piece that needs to be decided. And then those people need to then organize the committee, the actual act of getting together.
Yeah.
And if you have done that within a week, that meets the requirements, the scheduling may be the next week, but you've contacted, but know who's going to be there, know when it's going to happen, that committee is then formed and will be done at the time of the meeting.
Because of schedule contact, because of scheduling challenges, are we gonna have to have the same, in other words, could we have one person from the town of Nepiescum, one of the elected officials, participate in a meeting? Would it have to be the same one? I mean, that's gonna precipitate some scheduling challenges if we could substitute.
I think you can treat it as a designee of their respective municipalities, and how they wanna designate a committee participant would be a municipal
That's how I
discretion.
would feel, but especially being an ad hoc committee, it's
Yeah.
just, hey, we need a member municipality representative there,
Yeah.
along with their council to meet, you know. That's, so yes, you could have a designated person and change,
Thank you.
in my feeling.
Any other comments or questions?
I
Or-
have two questions.
Sure.
For amendments.
First of all, could I have the motion read, because I got lost along the way?
Doug?
Good luck with
Hold on, Ellen.
Let's see, motion, board form an ad hoc committee to review bylaw changes that are prudent to continue the fire district, with legal counsel to meet within 1 week. And then 2 weeks to have their first meeting together. Is that about right?
Yep.
Okay.
The second question is, are there any guarantees in there that all three municipalities will be represented by members of those municipalities?
I mean, I think the ask in the motion is that it's someone designated from each municipality. And,
Right, but we've tried this 2 other times.
yeah, and I'm just moving on from that. So I'm saying that this is a brand new motion. It's January, it's 2026, fresh year. So I think there's a good faith from everyone here that we're gonna do it, and council has already reached out to Tom, so I'm an optimist, Ellen.
I know you are, John, it's a good thing you're running the meeting.
All right, any other questions?
Or
You said
amendments.
2, did you say you had 2?
She was supposed
That was the
Oh, I'm
second
sorry.
one.
Yeah,
I
any other,
wanted the goofy motion read again, I'm still a little confused by it, but okay.
all right, otherwise, I don't need a roll call, so I'm just gonna do regular, so all those in favor of the motion, say
I
aye.
called for a roll call vote.
Oh, you did?
She is
Yeah, I
now.
called for a roll call.
Oh, okay,
She just did.
all right. Sorensen,
No,
Iverson,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Banker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Vanderbrink,
Yes.
Gotsky, yes. Motion passes. Tom, do you have everyone's email effectively that once you get a council or telephone number again, that we can move it along? We've been, you know.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
in terms of council email.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
council, us, getting Ellen on the line, I'm just saying, just the actual application that happens next, right? You reach out to council,
Here's kind of what I'm envisioning. An email from me to the respective council saying, here's what was decided at last night's meeting. Can we coordinate calendars to get an initial committee meeting scheduled? I guess what we would need from all of you is identifying who your respective person is that we need to coordinate those calendars with. That's sort of the biggest thing that I have the least amount of control over.
Sure.
So how do we wanna handle that?
Can we do that right now?
Certainly could.
Ellen, when are you back?
I think you should be on the committee.
I do too,
All
to
right,
be honest.
Take the appointment.
okay, alright. Okay, how many, you will?
Yes.
Okay, so me, Barry, I don't know,
Tom, I'd like you to include Wyden and Anna on that
So one,
email because,
either one will be the representative.
yes.
That's fair.
And I think, I mean, you guys have the luxury of a supervisor and the town chairman, and I think that it would be better. I mean, I like to get a consensus from my people, and so.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yeah, totally reasonable. And maybe after the meeting, we could just capture emails and make sure
Okay.
we've got the right contact
Yeah, that's
information.
So
Yeah, or you probably have everyone's.
I don't have yours, I don't think.
So would you send me one email with
Yeah.
everyone's contact tomorrow?
Sure.
And then I can take that and we can go from there.
These are gonna be public meetings, so if I wanted to come along, I could, or no.
I don't know if they need to be public.
They wouldn't have quorum of any of the respective bodies.
Don't need to go up, do you? For these meetings.
No, but I think, and I don't think
Oh.
they're,
Yeah.
I guess it's a discussion, if there'd be any
I think-
objection to additional people participating, but
If it
at a
doesn't-
minimum, there's a requirement to have one
If
participant.
it doesn't need to be an official open meeting, I would say for the simplicity of getting moving along, it would make more sense if it didn't need to be. Yeah, it was just an ad hoc.
And certainly, we can't cross the boundary of enough people showing up that it creates a public meeting issue.
So don't come.
If what's being unsaid here is, we're coordinating this by email, guys, so
I
That
will,
leaves me out already.
that's the point I'm trying to make here. Does that seem like a fair process?
yeah, I'll get you an email.
You'll give me an email tomorrow, then we'll initiate scheduling. I'll probably ask my assistant to take lead in coordinating with all parties.
Works for me. Any other questions from anyone? Ellen,
I'll just drop it out again.
if there's any other future agenda items, that would be good. So, otherwise, I would entertain a motion to,
If I might make a suggestion for future agenda items, maybe include a standing future agenda item for the ad hoc committee report. I mean, just
yeah,
to
oh, that's a
keep
good.
that on the agendas moving forward.
Ellen, if you didn't hear that, Tom's suggestion for future agenda items was to keep on the agenda an open line for the ad hoc committee to come back, right? Ad hoc.
Great, perfect.
So, all right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right, meeting is adjourned at 8:22. Thanks, Ellen.